The loneliness that comes with being needed less, but still feeling so much. It doesn't happen all at once. It sneaks in between errands you no longer have to run, in the silence that replaces the calls you used to get every day, in the spaces where your name was once called out with urgency. It arrives slowly, politely even, never demanding attention, just waiting in the background until one day you realize it's not leaving. This quiet ache, this stillness that used to feel like peace, now feels like absence, not of noise, but of being needed. There was a time when your presence felt essential. You were the one people turned to, the one who had the answers, or at least the arms wide enough to hold the chaos. You were the backbone of routines, the glue between moments, the heartbeat of a home or a workplace or a family. You didn't always ask for the responsibility, but you carried it well. And for a long time, that role defined you, gave shape to your days and meaning to your hours. But seasons change, kids grow up, colleagues move on, people find new rhythms, and gradually, life stops orbiting around you. It's not dramatic. There's no announcement, just a quiet reorganization of priorities in which you're still loved, still appreciated, but not needed in the same way. And that's when it begins. Not just the loneliness of physical distance or the reduction of your to-do list, but a deeper kind of loneliness. The one that comes from still feeling so much, still loving fiercely, still worrying deeply, still carrying a lifetime of wisdom and care, but having nowhere to pour it. Or worse, pouring it out and watching it go, unnoticed. It's a strange place to be, full of feeling but empty to function, and you might wonder, what do I do with all this love now? All this energy? All this insight that no one's asking for anymore? That's what we're going to talk about. Not in the language of pity, not as a eulogy for a past life, but as an honest human conversation about what it means to still be deeply alive, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, even when the world no longer knocks at your door with the same urgency, because you're still here, still feeling, still mattering, even if it looks different now. There's a particular kind of quiet that falls over a house when the years start to shift, not the peaceful quiet after a long day, not the kind you crave when the world is too loud. This one is different. It lingers. It settles into the corners of the home like dust. It doesn't ask permission. It just replaces what used to be. Laughter, footsteps, slamming doors, dinner-time questions, with a strange stillness that feels like both rest and loss. You walk into a room, and everything is right where you left it. Nothing is messy, nothing is urgent, and somehow that becomes the most painful part. No chaos to clean up, no shoes to trip over, no one calling your name. The rhythm that once filled your days now echoes, faint and fading. And yet, inside, you're anything but quiet. Your heart still runs at the same tempo. It still leaps at the thought of those you love, still aches when you remember moments gone by. You still notice things. The changing light through the windows, the smell of seasons shifting, the way a song can drag you back decades in a breath. You still feel everything. But where does it all go? It's a strange contradiction, to be full of life inside but surrounded by silence, to crave connection but not want to burden anyone, to long for someone to ask how you're doing but also not want to interrupt their busy lives. You've become someone others assume is okay, because you always were, because you made it look easy, because you never asked for help. But just because the house is quiet doesn't mean you've run out of things to say. It doesn't mean you're done growing or giving. And it certainly doesn't mean you've stopped mattering. This part of life, the quieter chapter, is not the end of the story. It's not where your value fades or your relevance disappears. If anything, this chapter might be the most emotionally rich one yet. It's just different. It asks you to find new ways of being heard, new places to place your love, new meaning in the stillness, because your heart hasn't gotten quieter, and that means you're still here for a reason. Purpose isn't always a lifelong contract. Sometimes it's a seasonal agreement, and that's not a bad thing. We grow up thinking our purpose will be one thing forever: mother, teacher, provider, protector, leader, supporter. And when that role starts to dissolve, it can feel like something is being taken from us. But maybe purpose was never meant to be permanent. Maybe it's meant to evolve, just like we do. You were needed intensely once, maybe by children who looked to you as their whole world, maybe by coworkers who depended on your leadership, or a partner who leaned on your strength. You showed up, you poured out, you sacrificed. And whether you were thanked or not, your impact was real. Your presence was grounding. You were the center of gravity for someone else's storm. But now, life has shifted. The phone rings less. Your advice isn't sought as urgently. People check in, but not always deeply. It's not personal. It's just the way life moves, and that movement can feel like rejection, even when it's just progression. Here's the truth that doesn't get said enough. Just because your old purpose has softened doesn't mean you don't have purpose anymore. It just means it's changing. Think of a tree. It doesn't look the same in winter as it does in spring, but it's not dying. It's conserving, preparing, transforming quietly. Maybe your purpose now isn't to be everything to everyone. Maybe it's to be fully yourself, deeply, rooted, quietly wise, fiercely gentle in a world that is always in a rush. Maybe it's to model what it means to age with grace, to love without conditions, to listen without needing to speak. That's a kind of purpose too, one that doesn't get celebrated often enough. You are not obsolete. You are seasoned, and seasons bring gifts, different from the ones before but no less valuable. The kind of gifts that come from experience, from having survived and failed and grown, from having lived enough to know what really matters. So if your role is changing, let it. Grieve it. Yes, that's human. But then open your heart to the new shape your life might be trying to take. Because purpose doesn't end. It just shifts. And so do we. There's a strange kind of grief that comes from having so much to offer, and nowhere to offer it. You still feel deeply. You still notice the way people are carrying pain in their shoulders. You still catch the quiet moments others miss, the hesitation in someone's voice, the weariness behind their smile. Your instincts to comfort, to hold, to guide. They haven't left you. They've only grown sharper, but fewer people ask now. There was a time when your phone would ring with questions, with problems, with "What would you do? And can you help me figure this out?" You were trusted, valued, needed. Even if it wore you down sometimes, it also lifted you up. It gave your days shape and your heart purpose. Now, the calls are less frequent. The questions don't come. People make decisions without looping you in, not out of unkindness, but because they've grown, moved on, built their own ways of coping. And you're proud of them. Of course you are. But part of you also aches, because no one sees the emotional reservoir still inside you. No one quite realizes that you still feel things as strongly as you ever did. Maybe more. Age doesn't dull emotion. In fact, sometimes it sharpens it. You've lived long enough to know what people mean even when they can't say it. You've seen enough to understand how fragile everything really is. And all of that, every bit of empathy, wisdom, love, it sits inside you, looking for a place to land. You want to help. You want to be asked. You want to pour into someone. Again. But what do you do when no one is reaching for the cup anymore? Here's the part we forget to talk about. There is immense power in feeling even when it isn't invited. Just because others aren't drawing from your well doesn't mean it's dried up. And just because they're not asking doesn't mean you don't still have something to give. Sometimes the most sacred offering is the quiet kind, the unnoticed prayer, the gentle encouragement, the silent support you give just by being there, by understanding, by seeing what others miss. That still counts, that still matters. Your feelings are not wasted, even if they aren't requested. And maybe in this quieter phase, part of the work is learning to honor your own emotional depth, not because it's being used by others, but because you are still worthy of that space, still worthy of your own attention, your own voice, your own care. Being needed is beautiful, but being enough even without being needed, that's something even deeper. They used to call you strong, maybe they still do. Maybe they even say it like it's a compliment, like being unshakable was your greatest achievement, like your ability to endure, to stay calm, to hold everyone together made you invincible. But they forget. Strength isn't weightless. It doesn't mean you didn't feel the strain. It just means you didn't let it show. You were the rock, the one people leaned on, the one who figured things out. When chaos hit, they called you. When someone needed a ride or a meal or a plan, you had it handled. You kept the gears turning behind the scenes. You kept the peace when tempers flared. You carried burdens no one even knew about, and you did it with a kind of quiet grace that made others believe it was easy for you. But it wasn't. And now that the spotlight has shifted, now that your name isn't on the emergency contact list, now that others have grown strong in their own ways, you're left with something they can't see. The fatigue of always having been the strong one. The residue of years spent holding everyone else up. The loneliness of being known for what you did, but not always for who you were beneath it. Because being the rock meant you had to hide your own cracks. It meant not crying when you wanted to. It meant swallowing your hurt so others wouldn't worry. It meant pushing your needs aside in service of the greater good. And now, when life has quieted down and the demands have lessened, you're left with the parts of yourself you had to neglect. The truth is, being strong doesn't mean you never struggled. It means you kept going despite the struggle. But strength, real strength, also includes softness. It includes vulnerability. It includes the willingness to say, I need support too. So if you were the rock, thank you. Thank you for what you held, what you endured, what you gave without asking for anything in return. And now it's your turn to be held, to be seen, to be soft, to be supported not because you're in crisis, but simply because you're human. You've already proven your strength. You don't have to carry the world anymore to be worthy of love. Let someone else be the rock now. You've earned your rest. There's no real warning when it happens. You show up, maybe to a family gathering or a group conversation or a team you used to be part of, and something feels different. You're still there, physically present, still smiling, still listening. But somehow you've faded in their eyes. The center has shifted. The conversations dance around topics you no longer have a role in. The plans are made without consulting you. The stories are shared without expecting your input. And then it hits you. You're not in the room the way you used to be. You're around but not included. You're visible but not seen. And it hurts. Not because you want attention, not because you need to control the narrative, but because for so long, your life was interwoven with theirs. You were a thread in the fabric, essential, present, counted, and now that thread feels like it's been set aside, not torn out, not discarded, just unnoticed. There's a unique kind of ache that comes from loving people so deeply and realizing they've started building chapters you're no longer written into. You celebrate them, of course you do. Their growth, their independence, their confidence, you helped shape that. But it doesn't make the quiet sting any softer, especially when you still care so much. You still remember the details they've forgotten. You still catch the emotions under the surface. You still think of them first thing in the morning, or pray for them before bed. You still carry the whole story, even if they're only giving you the highlights now. That's the part that feels invisible, not your body in the room, but your heart in the story. So what do you do when the world moves on without you? You grieve, quietly, truthfully, because loss isn't always about death. Sometimes it's about space, about shifts, about no longer being the main character in someone else's story, even if you still feel like you're living inside it. But then, slowly, gently, you begin to look for new rooms, not ones where you're tolerated, but ones where you're treasured. Not ones that need your history, but ones that welcome your present. You begin to realize that being invisible there doesn't mean you are invisible everywhere. You still have presence. You still have light. You're still worthy of being seen. This might be the hardest shift of all. For years, your worth was tied to your role. The mother who always knew what to say, the boss who held the line, the friend who remembered birthdays, the spouse who kept things afloat. You were known for what you did, for how well you showed up, for how much you gave, for how others leaned on you to be okay. But now, fewer people ask. Fewer needs are placed at your feet. The spotlight has moved, and you're left wondering, who am I if I'm not needed in the same way anymore? It's terrifying, because when the doing stops, you're left with the being. And many of us never learned how to separate the two. We were raised in a world that rewarded usefulness, that praised productivity, that valued the self-sacrificing, the dependable, the whatever you need, I've got it kind of love. So to sit in stillness now with no immediate demands, no urgent requests, it can feel like floating without an anchor. But here's the truth your soul has been whispering all along. You are worthy, even when no one is asking anything of you. You are worthy when you rest, when you say no, when you enjoy something just because it brings you joy. You are worthy when you are not fixing, saving, giving, doing, because your value was never actually in your usefulness. That was just the way the world tried to define. Your value is in your presence, in the way you make people feel safe, in the depth of your understanding, in the wisdom that doesn't come with a raised hand, but with a raised awareness, in the love you carry, not as a task, but as a quiet truth. This chapter of life invites you to reclaim that worth, to live in it, unapologetically. Maybe that means trying something new, not because someone needs you to, but because you want to. Maybe it means embracing joy without guilt, letting your days be filled with small pleasures, personal goals, inner peace. Maybe it means letting go of the old job descriptions and writing your own. You don't have to be needed to be valuable. You don't have to be chosen to be cherished. You don't have to be busy to be enough. Your worth is not up for negotiation. It's not performance-based. It doesn't expire when others stop noticing. It's yours, and it always has been. So take it back. This chapter may be quieter, yes, but your heart still beats loud. You've lived long enough to know love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice, a rhythm, a daily return to compassion even when the world has changed. It's the way you remember people's stories even when they don't think to share them anymore. It's how you still cheer for others even from the sidelines, even when they don't turn around to see who's clapping. You love fully, not because it's required, but because it's who you are. That kind of love? That's rare. And the world needs more of it, especially now. This is the season of subtle love, of unexpected texts, of checking in even when they haven't checked in on you, of baking the thing they like just because, of handwritten cards that don't ask for anything back, of forgiving without needing an apology, of remembering people's important days even if they forgot yours. It's the kind of love that leaves fingerprints on souls, not stages. And while it might feel one-sided at times, while it might make you wonder if anyone notices, know this: it matters. It matters deeply. You may not get standing ovations for it, you may not trend or go viral, but that quiet, steady, loud-hearted way you keep showing up, it changes people. It gives them something to come back to, even if they don't realize it until much later. Loving loudly in the quiet chapters also means loving yourself, not waiting for others to affirm your worth, not shrinking your joy to fit their busyness, not holding back your light because someone else is distracted. It means doing things that make you come alive, not to prove something, but because you still deserve that fullness, that beauty, that space. It means finding places where you can be fully present, not tolerated but treasured, not needed but wanted. It means waking up and deciding to care about yourself, about the world, about the people you love, not because it's expected, but because that's your legacy. You love well, you love consistently, you love without the noise, and that is powerful beyond words. So here you are, in the stillness, in the chapter that doesn't look like the ones before. The spotlight has shifted. The noise has died down. The demands have lessened. And yet, your heart still pulses with more life than anyone can see. It's tempting to believe that less attention means less value. that fewer phone calls mean fewer connections, that being needed less means being loved less. But that's not true. You still matter, even when they don't say it, even when they forget to ask, even when you're not in the center of their lives like you once were. You matter because you are still here, breathing, feeling, loving, giving, becoming. You're not a relic of your past roles. You are a living, evolving soul who carries stories, wisdom, humor, tenderness, and fire. You are still changing the world, not with grand gestures, but with small, quiet acts of grace. With your listening ear, with your enduring presence, with your ability to see beauty where others overlook it. The quieter chapters are not lesser chapters. They are often the most profound, because in the quiet, you begin to hear your own voice again. In the stillness, you discover who you are without the expectations. And in the pause, you find your power, not the kind the world claps for, but the kind that holds the world together in invisible ways. So don't shrink. Don't wait for permission to shine again. Don't believe the lie that your season is over. You are still the same soul, maybe even stronger, deeper, softer in all the best ways. You still have purpose. You still have presence. You still have love. And the world still needs exactly what you carry, even if it doesn't know how to ask for it. You still matter, even now, especially now.